On today's video, I'm going to do something that absolutely no one requested. I'm going to rank all the stimulus packages, the proposed stimulus packages, from best to worst, going over their good qualities, their bad qualities. We're going to talk about the $2,000 a month plan, the ABC plan, Patriot Pay, the free rent and mortgage plan, the tax credit plan, and then one that I guarantee you have never heard of before. So the first plan we're going to talk about is the ABC plan, the automatic boost to communities plan. All of them, I'm going to start them out at the C level, and then as I talk about it, I'm going to rank it up or down. Basically how this one works is it's a $2,000 payment up front and then $1,000 per month after that. So it's good. We get money to the communities, money to people who need it. What I don't like is it doesn't have a specific end date. It says it'll end once it's 1 year after the COVID-19 pandemic. That's too ambiguous. What does the end of the pandemic mean? I'm going to downvote it a little bit for that. We need a more rigid, this is how long it's going to last. Otherwise, it's going to keep continuing on and on and on. Another major issue is fraud. There's a huge risk of people stealing other people's debit cards because this is going to go on this debit card system, registering under other names, and that brings me to my next point, is the debit card system in general. It's a whole new system. They'd have to build this out. They've never done it before. You know, why not just use the existing systems that they're working the kinks out of right now, because there undoubtedly will be glitches with that, so that bumps it down a little bit. What I do like is there's payments for any bills. You can use this money. It's just boom, money in your account, use whatever you want. So that ranks it back up a little bit. And also, I'm going to give it a slight piece of creativity brownie points for the concept that they used to mint two $1 trillion coins in order to pay for this. This is a concept that was developed back in the 90s, and every like 5 to 7 years, someone brings it up to try to solve some problem. It's never been used, but I like the creativity there. We're going to leave it at a C, though. Moving on to the next stimulus, the free rent and mortgage, starting that out at C. Basically how this works is if you have rent or you have mortgage, it would be reimbursed for a certain period of time. The Labor Department would create an additional fund for landlords and mortgage holders to be reimbursed. There also would be more funds in order to create additional affordable housing. I think the intentions here are pure, so I'm going to bump it up for that. Housing is expensive. People need help. They got the right intent in mind. However, it's an absolute logistical nightmare. There would be so many forms that would need to be filled out for every transaction. Every homeowner would need to fill out a form. Every mortgage company would need to fill out some paperwork and then hope that it gets figured out on the back end. If you had a rental home, your renter would have to fill out forms. You'd have to fill out forms. It'd be absolute chaos, and the amount of logistics would be insane. Way worse than any program that we're seeing right now. Another major issue is many people don't have their names on leases, or they have some kind of verbal agreement for rent, and this would not help them out at all, or it would give an extra benefit for someone who doesn't deserve it, so that bumps it down even a little bit more. Also, rent isn't always the issue for people. Some people have cheap rent and then are drowning in a car payment, or need to be able to afford food for their children or something like that. Rent isn't always a major issue, so I'm bumping that one down even further. Bottom line, this one is too complicated. I don't really like it. Give people the freedom to spend the money how they're going to spend it if you're going to do a stimulus. You know what? I'm actually just going to bump this down to an F. This one. Moving on. The next one is a $2,000 a month stimulus. Now this one is really popular. I'm sure you've already heard about it. But basically it's monthly cash payments that would go to basically everyone 16 years and older, and this would continue until the unemployment ratio is greater than 60%, which is the ratio of people who want work divided by the ratio of people who can work. So I think it's good that this one has the specific deadline. You hit that employment ratio, boom, it's done, it's solved. I like that it's very inclusive. If you're going to do a stimulus, you might as well include just about everyone in order to stimulate the economy, so I'm going to bump it up a little bit for that. However, it's very expensive. This stimulus would cost, if 200 million people a month were receiving payments, which is slightly more than this first stimulus because it's more inclusive, that would be $400 billion per month that it would cost. And if this only lasted 6 months, that'd be $2.4 trillion in total expense, not counting what it costs to get all that processed and the back end fees and things like that. We'd probably be looking like $2.6, $2.7 trillion for 6 months. So very expensive, but would probably stimulate the economy. I'm going to leave that one as a B. I kind of like that one. All right, the next stimulus package is Patriot Pay, and I'm going to represent this with a 2009 Jeep Patriot. Started out on the C level. Basically how this works is an additional $12 an hour for essential workers from May, June, and July for a total of $1,920 per month. There's some nuances there if you make more than $50,000 a year, but this is like the baseline of it. 1/4 of the pay would be paid by employers, and 3/4 would be paid through a refundable tax credit. With this one, I also think there's good intentions for the system. People who are working will get additional pay for risking themselves for the well-being of the country. Unemployed people are already getting that extra benefit. I think it's only fair to benefit both groups of people. However, I think it's a bad system that employers have to foot the bill for it and to pay it up front, because I can see some major cash flow problems here. So many businesses already have major cash flow problems right now, and adding an additional 50 to 80% of payroll, even if it's going to be refunded later, is going to cause major problems. So that drops it even lower for me, dropping 2 tiers for that one. However, it is opt-in, so some businesses wouldn't opt in. Actually, I think a lot of businesses wouldn't opt in because it's going to be so expensive for employers, which means it's probably not going to be as effective because a lot of people simply won't opt in. It is good that the payments could be used on anything again. That's a true stimulus, stimulate the economy. So we're going to leave that one as a D. Sorry, Mitt. Moving on to the next one is the employer tax credit idea. This isn't like exactly a proposal yet, but Trump is a huge fan of it, so I figured I would talk about this as well. So we'll start that out at a C. Basically how this would work is employees and employers would not have to pay normal taxes on payroll. So effectively people would be able to keep more money on their paychecks, and employers would have to pay out less money to the government through payrolls. Payroll taxes for individuals include about 6.2% of your income for Social Security and 1.45% of your income for Medicare. And employers also pay an additional 6.2% to the government for these payroll taxes, and they pay 1.45% of income towards Medicare. So employers and employees would retain about $75 each per $1,000 that goes to each employee. So the employee would save $75, the employer would save about $75 for every $1,000. So that would be a stimulus of around $280 a month for the average worker in the US. So I do like this one because it is simple. Nothing would have to be changed. They just would not take out payroll taxes. No systems. It'd be very few glitches. We wouldn't have to deal with a bunch of that crap. However, I don't believe it's quite enough funds if you're going to do a true stimulus. So that ranks it a little bit lower for me. I'd personally rather see a one-time payment over something like this, just another like $1,200 check or something like that. That would be equivalent to like 4 months worth of this. Also, this doesn't help out anyone who isn't currently working, like someone who just lost their job isn't going to be covered. Someone who's on disability wouldn't be covered from this. So, I'm going to leave this as a D level. I really like the simplicity of it though, because generally the most simple plan is the best one, but I just don't think it's quite enough. That brings me to the last plan, one that I guarantee you have not heard of before. I'm going to refer to this as Kevin's plan because I was at the gas station the other day, and the news was playing on the TV, and they were talking about stimulus packages. And this middle-aged man in line next to me decided to tell me his ideas for the future stimulus package. And let me get the icon there for this. This is Kevin's stimulus plan. His stimulus plan was $16,000 a month in stimulus, but only for him and his friends. So again, we're going to refer to this as Kevin's stimulus plan. I got to give him kudos for shooting his shot. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit for shooting his shot. It's fairly creative. The $16,000 mark makes me think that he's done the math. He knows the numbers he needs. He knows what he needs to stimulate the economy. Compared to other stimulus packages, I got to admit, this is the cheapest one. So we're going to bump it up a little bit for that. It makes sense. Unfortunately, the stimulus package is horribly selfish, and however convincing he might be, I doubt that this is going to stimulate the economy whatsoever, so I'm going to actually put this one even a little lower than free rent. I got to applaud him for his effort, but it's just not going to work. So that's all I have on this. What are your guys' opinions? Which one do you think is best? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you enjoy this video? This was kind of fun for me to make. If you enjoyed this, please consider hitting the like button and please subscribe. I would appreciate it so much. Until next time, I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you have a profitable day.